I'm a geek, I'm a nerd, I'm a gamer at home, So all this stuff I'm using it every day, and so to be able to work with the sorts of things I love to work with, but also get to do things I love and to help people and feel like I actually make an impact it's crazy. And there are a few. I've never had a job I've quite loved quite as much. So.
Hello, I'm Eric Anderson. The voice you just heard belongs to Andrew Baenziger from SaskAbilities. He is the featured guest in Season 5, Episode 6 of YXC Underground. Andrew Baenziger is in his dream job. As the Adaptive Technologist for SaskAbilities, he is helping people overcome barriers they are facing due to disability or injury through his passion for technology and empathy to help others in need. We visit Andrew at his workshop to learn how he uses technology and perhaps a piece or two from his aquarium to make a difference in the lives of people here in Saskatoon. Welcome to the Adaptive Technology Department of SaskAbilities. It is located at the organization's building on Louise Drive, which is an old school. You walk down a long hallway, and in an old classroom on the right-hand side of the hallway, you see a sign that says Adaptive Technology. This is Andrew Baenziger's home away from home. The main space has a few desks which are covered with different devices and creations made by Andrew that are designed to help people in a variety of ways. He calls it his showroom, and it's where most of our conversation takes place. But his favorite space to spend time is definitely his workshop. It's attached to the showroom, and it's where Andrew loves to fix things.
Recently, someone brought in a transmitter for a hearing aid for a classroom, and I started taking it apart, and it was very old, and basically the company had refused to do any repairs on it, even if they'd paid for it. And I start taking it apart, I start taking the screws out, and I guess the plastic was just really old, and so all the things that were holding the screws onto the faceplate, the plastic just buckled and snapped, and so suddenly I couldn't attach the faceplate back onto the device. I was like, oh no, I was supposed to fix this. I mean, it turned out okay in the end. I managed to put it back together, but let's just say there was a good couple hours where I was, oh shit. Oh, sorry, should I not be swearing?
No, you go for it.
Yeah, that was an afternoon of panic.
As an adaptive technologist, Andrew works with people who need help overcoming barriers in their lives. Oftentimes, these barriers revolve around communication. Andrew shares some great examples in our conversation of how he has worked with clients to come up with creative and cost-efficient solutions to barriers they are facing due to disability or injury. Carrie McComber calls Andrew's role the best-kept secret at SaskAbilities. Carrie is the Director of Rehabilitation Services with SaskAbilities and manages a team of 70 people. Andrew is one of her people.
Well, Andrew is a very special staff member. He runs a department called Adaptive Technology, and he is the sole member of that department. And what the department does for people is it looks at the unique needs of the client, and Andrew finds the technology to meet those needs for the individual. He's such a caring individual. He goes above and beyond for each one of our clients, and he truly listens to the client to understand their needs so that he can find the right product for them. Just recently, Andrew worked with a client. He was a young gentleman who was a gamer. And Andrew, if you don't know, he's a little bit of a gamer himself. And they worked on a system, a gaming console, to meet the needs of this client who just needed a little bit of special touches. And it was wild to see what they were able to come up with and design for this client. And because Andrew's a gamer, he understood what the buttons needed to do, what kind of functions, and when you push them. So it was really cool for Andrew to use his own personal experience and knowledge and love of gaming to be able to apply that for a client.
In the first part of our conversation, Andrew shares the joy he feels when he's able to form a relationship with his clients and how he works with clients to overcome frustrating situations. We also talk about the work he does with children, which I found really interesting. I started by asking Andrew how a relationship with a client begins.
So a lot of the time, it is the occupational therapist or someone they know who is contacting me on their behalf because either they can't contact me or they don't know about me or they're not comfortable with it. But, the other half of the time, it's a parent or a child reaching out and saying, like, hey, my dad just fell and broke his hip and he's considered a fall risk now. Like, what do you know about alarm pendants so that they can call for help or things like that? And so anyone can reach out to me, like whether you're just someone asking questions or you're a therapist who wants a recommendation. Reaching out to me is free. Anyone can do it. Ask questions. That part of my job is free, and it's a huge section of my job is just information. It's telling, getting people where they need to be, getting them the resources they need, helping them find where they can find funding or where they can access services that maybe I don't provide. I get a lot of contacts for like hearing aids or modifying a vehicle to suit a wheelchair or alternative controls for driving. And obviously I can't do everything. But so a lot of my job is, being in the know of who does what in town, sending people to the right place, making sure they're getting the right information, because there is a lot of false information out there as well. Especially like for hearing aid and stuff, there are a lot of people who are going to try and, oh, you need this hearing aid, let me sell it to you. And not to say that there are just free hearing aids sitting all over the place, but there are resources for people to get hearing aids more cheaply. Or I think there's even maybe something sort of a loan service or for people who in low income who need them. So there are resources out there, but a lot of the time people just don't know they exist. And so a lot of my time is spent answering those questions and hopefully guiding people into making the best choices for themselves.
So then after you have those initial conversations and you begin to work with someone, say for example, like the person with the device that sends the vibrations through the jawbone, what's that called again?
That's called a bone conduction headset, or induction. Yeah. People use different words.
So a bone conduction headset. Yes. So when you're working with that person, like, is it like, do you begin to sort of like develop like a bit of a relationship in terms of like, I just picture like you're doing such a good service and a necessary service for this person. Like, does a relationship start to form at all?
That depends. A lot of people will come through this service, they'll have a very specific question, they'll get a very specific answer, and that's all they need. And then other people I will work with for hours and hours and hours, and I will see them multiple times, and we will start to be, build a relationship, be friends. Like, they'll call me as their go-to IT person a little bit, just because they're more comfortable speaking to me. So yeah, it varies a lot. Sometimes I never even meet the client. There are times where the occupational therapist they know what they want. They just want to get it ordered, and they need someone to provide quotes for Kinsman or whatever application they're doing. And so I just provide the quote. I get the equipment. I set it up for them, and I say, "Here you go." But other times, yeah, it's visiting them in the hospital or the care home or at their own home. It's discussing options like home automation, access methods, alternative tools so they can, cut their food or make a cup of coffee or control their TV. something like, Alexa, turn on the TV. Hey, there you go.
Alexa's turning on the TV.
Yeah, and, controlling lights, using Netflix, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that simple, but, often it's more complicated than you think. Setting up an Alexa or Google Home at your house, easy peasy, you've got your own Wi-Fi network, that's simple. Well, maybe not for everybody, but, for people who are more tech savvy, that might be something simple. But then you get into a hospital or a care home setting where they've got a public Wi-Fi, and suddenly your devices can't speak over the Wi-Fi, so you're having to use infrared or RF frequencies, or you're having to use Bluetooth, and so then you're having to select very specific devices that will fulfill very specific roles, and wiggle between the cracks to find that one solution, right?
So much problem solving with your job.
Yes. Yes. That's all this job is basically when one of the other departments here has a client and it's like, oh, this client wants to be able to do this. That's not our department. Then it's like, hey, talk to Andrew. Maybe he has something. So that's why there's a lot of this mounting equipment, is because it's not really an access method. It's not technology, but if you can't mount your phone to your wheelchair, that's an access issue, right? Yeah. And so then it falls to someone to make sure that you can mount your device and keep it on your wheelchair and keep it safe and stable and accessible.
When you go into a person's home, Andrew, it's do you feel like a sense of responsibility at all in terms of I'm here, I take it upon myself, I'm going to help this person. Does that ever cross your mind at all?
There are times where it's very obvious that I'm sort of the person they're turning to because nobody else has figured out what to do. And so sometimes there's a lot of pressure in that if I don't find something or if I don't get this working just right, it's going to be an ongoing issue for them that's going to affect their quality of life. Actually, I have a fellow right now, I can't name names for obvious reasons, but we got him voice controlling his iPad so that he could, browse the internet, do stuff like that. But we think it's because of the public Wi-Fi, and guest Wi-Fi, especially in hospitals, is just so bad. They kick you off it all the time. You have to sign in. It causes all sorts of issues. But it's also affecting how they can do their voice control. And so I've been getting calls saying their voice control keeps turning off. And how do you we went through all this process of getting these devices, making sure they were set up, making sure they knew how to use it, and now they can't use it. And I mean, that sucks. It feels pretty bad for them. I mean, it's awful for them. I mean, they thought they had a path forward, and now they've hit yet another roadblock that's frustrating them, essentially. And of course I feel responsible for that because we didn't see that coming. So, now we're in talks and we're trying to figure out a way that we can maybe get that to work. But, it's a process, and sometimes you stumble and it feels bad when you do. Or if you go to someone's place and you say unfortunately, I don't have a solution for you right now. I don't know what to do.
Just the example though with the client that you're working with and the Wi-Fi in the hospital, like you said, you go to these lengths, you find solutions, and then something that's out of your control sort of prevents it from yeah. Are you from your role, do you bounce back quickly and say okay, let's figure out another solution? How does that work for you, Andrew?
I mean, you sort of have to. I mean, it's not really a choice. Either you do, or they get left in the lurch and told to suck eggs, essentially. I mean, what else is there to do? Sometimes you can't find a solution, though. I can't control the Wi-Fi. I can try to minimize the impact it has or find an alternative thing to do, and that's what we're working on right now, is maybe looking at an alternative. but we can't control the Wi-Fi. That's not something that I'm in charge of. I can't just say, hey, get this guy some Wi-Fi and pay for it in perpetuity wherever he goes. Like, that's not feasible. So we need to find some other way. And, for someone that has a voice but literally can't use their arms or their legs or really have much mobility at all, being unable to, your options are limited. And so, as it gets narrower and narrower, it starts to get harder and harder to find those solutions. Especially, you've got an eye gaze system here that allows someone to control a computer with their eyes, but some people can't use it. Either their technical literacy is at a stage where they struggle to understand it, or they're at a place where, when you're in a position where you can only use your eyes to access the world, like you can't even speak, it's very disheartening. It's very easy to lose hope, and there are situations where technology and the devices offered can work, but the person has sort of given up, and that's very hard to deal with.
So then what do you do in that case, Andrew?
Sometimes you just have to leave it. I mean, you can't help, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. The best you can do is you can show them the options. You can say, like, here's what I've got for you. If one of these works, then we can figure out a way to get it to you and make sure you have it. If not, we can try and fix what's not working or customize it to make it work. But at the end of the day, if they're not willing to interact with it at all, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Does that happen often, or are those more rare cases in your line of work?
It's pretty rare that someone doesn't want to see an improvement in their life. But it does happen. Especially with things like communication. When someone loses their voice or loses the ability to speak, sometimes an alternative, like a voice-generating device, isn't adequate to them. They don't like it. They don't feel comfortable. Or they haven't communicated for such a long time that sort of that part of their brain that, figures out what they want to say has degraded, and they struggle with just the possibility of, like, what can I say, and so, like, I've worked with people who they have the access, they have the ability to interact with the technology, they have the know-how, and then they just, nope, I don't want to. And yeah, it's very strange. But I mean, that it comes down to what they want. If they don't want to change, then you can't make people change.
There's only so much you can do.
There's only so much. I'm here to provide stuff, not to force people to use it.
Right. Thank you for explaining a little bit of that, because I hadn't thought of it that way in terms of your role, but thank you for explaining that.
You see a lot with things like ALS where it's terminal, where they slowly lose function through their entire body, starting with the feet, and then eventually their feet stop working, and then their arms stop working, and then their head control goes, and then their voice control goes, and they get to a point where they're essentially just trapped in bed all day, every day, unable to do anything more than move their eyes in some cases. And, it's terminal. There's no cure for it. So it can be, I understand.
Are those days tough for you?
Oh yeah, it's tough for everybody, especially, people with ALS generally are in the older, sort of later stages of their life. So they often have kids. They often led a productive life where there are farmers and, people have been working hard their whole lives, and then suddenly they get ALS and they go from, being the doer of the family to suddenly depending on everyone for everything. And, watching your parent or your sibling go through that and suddenly change completely is very, very hard. And so when they don't want to seek technology or something like that, it is hard on the entire family because they want to see them trying, but sometimes the fight just isn't there, right?
Yeah. you've been obviously kind enough to invite us into your space, and you described it a bit as a showroom. What we're looking at right now, for our listeners, do you want to walk us through in terms of what we see, and if you want to demonstrate at all? Buttons sound great on podcasts, but yeah, what are we looking at here, Andrew?
Okay, so on the far left here, we have got an old Tobii Dynavox all-in-one device. This is an i15 Plus, and it is designed to basically make a computer accessible. So down at the bottom, it's got a bar for eye gaze control if you purchase that option.
And for people that don't know eye gaze, like that's where you are able to control the screen through movements in your eyes. That's correct?
Yep, solely eye-based. It shines an infrared light at your eyes that reflects off the back of your retina, and you are it picks it up, and it is able to calculate the angle of where you are looking at the screen in relation to into the camera that it uses, and will calculate where on the screen you're looking based on the distance from it and the distance back and the angles. So you are able to look around the screen and you'll see the mouse shooting across the screen wherever you look. And then you use something like dwell technology, which is, simply put, when you hover over something for long enough, it selects it. Okay. So you can change the duration based on how skilled you are, how fast you are, and it allows you to basically access the full range of the computer with just your eyes. But yeah, so this is an all-in-one device. This one is probably, I mean, not anymore. This one's an older model, but in the neighborhood of $12,000 to $15,000. And then next to it, we have an iPad, which is around $450, and a Surface Pro, which is about $1,000, connected to an eye gaze system that's much cheaper, also by Tobii Dynavox. But yeah, prices. This is. I keep this around, this big all-in-one unit around as sort of. They still make them, but the cost is drastically reducing as technology improves, as consumer electronics get better and better. So like these two devices are basically both sold by Tobii Dynavox. It's the Surface Pro with the eye gaze and the all-in-one unit. The Surface Pro with the eye gaze is somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000, and then the big all-in-one device is much, much more. And just, I guess I should say, one of the biggest parts of my job that doesn't get mentioned is finding cost-effective ways to do things. Because especially when you're dealing with medical equipment or things specifically made for disabilities, the price goes up drastically. There's a very, very high markup. And so one of the things that I'm most proud of in terms of what I do is making things much, much, much cheaper. So, we'll go over a few more of these things because some of these are great examples of cost saving. So, for example, here I have a big, what looks like an arcade board with big arcade buttons and arcade joysticks, just like you would see in an old arcade cabinet. So those I found on Amazon. They are, if you've ever heard of a MAME cabinet, I think they're called, where people use an Android sort of processor and they program it to run old arcade games, and then they build basically their own arcade cabinet that can run like a dozen different arcade games. But because it became popular for a little while, places started selling DIY kits where they would give you the buttons and the joysticks. And so I took those buttons and joysticks and rewired them to work with an Xbox Adaptive Controller, so now you can play Xbox with them.
Where did you come up with that idea?
Well,
and obviously a person wanted to play Xbox.
Yeah, for sure. But also because Switches are expensive normally. So it used to be, even when I first started my job 5 years ago, there was really only a few places that made adaptive Switches. and they sold them for a mint. So I'm actually just going to grab something real quick. So this is sort of my box of switches. So I keep a lot of these around because they come in handy in a lot of different scenarios and stuff. But this is a big buddy button by AbleNet.
That's a big red button.
Yeah, it is a very big, very red button, and this is called a micro light switch, also by AbleNet. And I'll actually pull. I have some around, so I'll actually grab one and show you what it looks like out of the box. So this would be an example of the red buddy button. It's just a flat, round piece of plastic about 2 inches wide, and you press it, and it can activate something.
So what might it activate?
Well, it can activate a mouse button. So if you are using head control or a different access method other than like a mouse, it can act as your left click or your right click. It can also activate toys and things like that. So I get a lot of basically requests for like a children's toy to be adapted so that it can be used with a switch. So actually, if you look over there, I've got 2 children's toys there.
Oh,
you have a big green button.
Oh my gosh! Yes,
push the big green button.
Can I push it?
You can push the green.
Rana, do you want to push the big green button?
You got this.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so
Okay, so you have to explain what just happened when Rana pressed the green button.
yeah, so that little toy there is sort of the Adaptive Technology sort of mascot. It's a little robot with a bunch of big colorful gears on the front and big clear plastic eyes. And when you press the button, the gears spin, his arms wiggle, and his eyes light up, and it makes quite a racket.
And you made this.
No. The toy was from another time.
Okay.
But I rewired it. Well, actually, my predecessor rewired it so that you could just go and press that big button and it would turn on. Because normally it's either on or off. There's a switch on the back, so you toggle the switch on or off, and it's just on or it's just off. And clearly that's not the case anymore. So that's the thing, is a lot of children with various disabilities have trouble accessing the controls, whether it's squeezing Elmo's hand or something like that. They can't physically, their hands aren't dynamic enough, or maybe they don't have the hands to do it, to interact with that toy in the way that's intended. And so I will go and I'll rewire the switches and hook it up to a big red button like this. And then when they thump on the button, it goes and it turns the toy on. And you can see that little bus thing over there, that fluffy bus, also has a cord coming out of it. And this would just plug into that cord and turn it on, and it would start doing its thing and playing music and whatever.
Andrew, I never thought of the work you would do with kids, let alone with kids' toys. But as you're describing this, like, I'm thinking of all the toys I played with as a kid, whether it was Transformers, He-Man, Train Set.
That was fun.
Yeah, like all the things that I completely took for granted that I could do all that, and yet for some kids that's
Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, what toys are made to be handled and picked up and squeezed and hugged or flipped on and off with a switch, and not every kid can do that.
Well, I'm thankful they have you.
Me too. I mean, there are lots of other people that do stuff like this, and there are great organizations like Makers Making Change that in December they did a fundraising campaign specifically to adapt toys for people all over Canada. And so that was amazing. And shout out to them. They're Makers Making Change is a great all across North America or Canada, I can't remember. But either way, great people.
You're listening to Season 5, Episode 6 of YXC Underground. I'm your host, Eric Anderson, and our guest is Andrew Baenziger from SaskAbilities. Listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And you can also listen to every episode of YXC Underground over on the website at yxcunderground.com. Follow YXC Underground on social media. Just search YXC Underground on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And that's where you'll see some wonderful photos of Andrew taken by Saskatoon photographer Rana Andres. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review if you like what you hear. I think one of Andrew's many strengths is how he combines his passion for technology with a genuine interest in helping people. In the second part of our conversation, you'll hear a wonderful quote from Andrew right near the end, where he puts his job into a greater perspective that I think will stick with you. You will also hear my friend and YXC Underground photographer Rana Andres ask a few questions to Andrew. Now, Rana is an occupational therapy assistant at Sherbrooke Community Centre, which is where I work, and I wanted to make sure she had a chance to ask Andrew some questions because she would view his work through such a unique lens. Let me tell you, Rana asks some great questions. We pick up the conversation with Andrew and I in his showroom, surrounded by different devices and gadgets, and I asked him if he enjoys having such creative freedom in his job.
I mean, yeah, it's my favorite part. I mean, sometimes it's stressful because the reason you have to be creative is because there isn't a solution that you can just pluck off a shelf and hand to someone and say, here, this is great. And so you have to work around it, and you have to, or budget is an issue. That's, I mean, like I said it before, finding ways to get around people's budgets is huge because, you know, if someone has funding from, you know, a big organization or something, you know, you can buy them the premium device that's gonna solve all the problems, and it's gonna, you know, it's already considered all the issues that could arise. But then sometimes people are paying out of pocket, and so you have to be aware of, like, how much can you spend here, and, like, I need to find a way to make it fit that budget. If they have, like, you know, and it will be a limiting factor sometimes, but a lot of times you can find your little ways around it to save someone several hundred to even several $1,000s. Perfect example. I have this mount from a company I will not name. It is a very good mount. It is an amazing mount. It is meant to go on a wheelchair. It has an arm that swings. And it locks into positions. It is very durable, very sturdy, and if you have an iPad or a computer that is very precious to you, that is holding devices that are very valuable, it doesn't really get much better than this. It is also like a $3,000 mount. So that better be a very expensive device, because that is, you might end up spending more on the mount than on the device. Yeah. That arm there, with the big knob on it, is a Manfrotto lighting mount. So it is a consumer product. It is not a disability product. And because of that, it is much cheaper. Now, it is still expensive. That is a $400 mount on the table there holding that Surface Pro. But that is a far shot from $3,000. And then here, I've got, like, this is sort of where I'm getting, like, into the cheapest of the cheap. And, like, I can make this work for less than $100. Now, it's not going to hold, you do not want this holding your Surface Pro, because weight it will sag, but this is great for phones. So this is made with what's called Lockline modular hosing. And so if you want to grip it, I can hold this real quick for you. If you want to grip it, it's sturdy enough. It has sturdy, but it's flexible.
It is.
And so it's got just enough strength. And what's funny is this is actually meant for plumbing. So this is watertight, and you're supposed to be able to basically mount this and replace, like, pieces of hosing in your aquarium or in your house, to run hosing that's modular and that you can change out pieces and make it to whatever length you want. But it's got that sturdiness. So we've connected it to some RAM mounting pieces, and now it holds a phone. You can just take your phone, slap it in there, and mount this to a wheelchair, and off you go.
Where? Wow. How did you how did you come up with this?
So I have a saltwater aquarium at home, and we use this for plumbing because it doesn't leak toxins into the water. It's food safe, so it's very good that way. But it's sturdy. It holds up. It'll keep its shape unless you put a lot of weight on it. Like, I mean, obviously, if you do it, it sags and becomes a sad flower. But
It's great for a phone.
it's just enough weight limit to hold a phone, and if you really want to, you can hold a tablet. You just got to keep it real short because every single segment you add reduces its overall strength. But I had one client who maybe only had 3 or 4 segments, but it was just enough to do a little bit of a scorpion tail, and that curve gave it a lot of strength, and so it was just enough to hold it just above where they were sitting, and so they could. But like, you have to be really careful with this stuff because it's cheap, but because it's cheap and because it's not meant to hold things, you don't want anything super expensive depending on it.
That must have been so cool though when you like figured all this out and it worked. Like, is it like an aha moment or like do you do a little dance in your head like, yes, it worked?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And just like you get familiar with certain things. You see certain things work. So like the reason I even thought of this is because this is the RAM part. So RAM creates these mounts, and these are meant for holding your devices in a vehicle. So they're meant to be mounted internally in like a truck or in your car, so that you can have your phone or your laptop sort of mounted next to you as you're driving. So for things like police cruisers and stuff like that, where they want the computer like sitting right there next to them. So you can see here, this is also a RAM mount, and if you come around the back, you can see the same sort of connector here onto the back of the RAM mount. So this is holding the tablet, but then it's just got this little ball that screws into the arm, and that's what makes these two work. This is Manfrotto, this is RAM, 2 different companies. Their stuff just happens to fit together. And then, so I was playing with these, and and it's like, well, anything spherical that's about 1 inch can fit in here. And sure enough, this lock line is almost exactly the same size. And so it's a little, gotta get it just right, and you tighten it down, and sure enough, it looks almost exactly the same. It looks like it was made for each other.
This is amazing. Andrew, how did you end up like down this road where you're where you're taking inspiration from your saltwater aquarium and helping so many people who have barriers in their lives? Like, how'd you end up in this role?
I fell into it. It was never my intention to end up doing this job. It just sort of happened. It's one of those things. So my background is electronics technician was my first certificate, and then I got a diploma in electrical engineering technology. Not an engineer, technologists for those who know the difference. So I'm not an engineer, but yeah, when you're in those fields, like your first thought going through school is like, I just want to get a job that's stable, that's going to be around 50 years from now, that and then, you work at a lot of jobs. I worked at the RCMP briefly. I worked with a, electrical design firm for a while. And you start to, your work matters, but, you start to feel everyone wants to do something that they feel is important, right? Everyone wants to get some satisfaction and actually do something and feel like they make a difference. And, this job opened up, and I'd never heard about it before, so I just tossed my application in just on a chance, and I got the call, and I met Reg, who was the guy before me, and we talked a fair bit, and he was a great guy. He's done stuff that I haven't even started to do. He worked with companies to develop products that they sell now. But also like on his own I have back there an old legacy thing. I can't get rid of it. I should say, it means too much to me. He helped develop a system that would allow you to control your wheelchair with the same sort of eye gaze system, to like move your wheelchair and guide it around. Now there was a bunch of liability issues, and I don't think it ever got to the point where it was functional enough that they could actually sell it, because there are always issues with eye gaze working in sunlight and stuff, because it needs to be able to get the infrared light, and in broad sunlight, infrared light is everywhere, and it blinds the camera, and so there are lots of issues. And there was liability with what if someone just drives out into the street because it stops responding to them or something like that. So nobody wanted to be responsible for that. But it was still it was such a cool project, and it worked. I mean, it was a proof of concept. He made it. It worked. And I could never get rid of that, but it's very, very cool. Shoot, I lost my train of thought. I don't know.
No. It's very clear that this job means a lot to you.
Oh yeah, so that's what I was talking about. But it was one of those things where when I got here and I saw what he did and I saw what he was working on this and the sorts of things they did, it was sort of oh geez, like this allows me to work with people, to improve people's lives, to actually feel like, to go to work and feel like you actually make a difference every single day, but like also get to work with technology and what I love. And I'm a geek, I'm a nerd, I'm a gamer at home, so all this stuff I'm using it every day. And so, to be able to work with the sorts of things I love to work with, but also get to do things I love and to help people and feel like it actually make an impact it's crazy. And there are a few, I've never had a job I've quite loved quite as much. So,
Andrew, that's wonderful. You've been so generous with your time, and you tell wonderful stories, and it's clear you're making a difference. Ronna, I have to ask, do you, from an occupational therapist assistant perspective, do you have any questions for Andrew?
I sure do. Andrew, I have to know, what is the most unique project that you have ever worked on?
Okay. I got a couple.
That's a great question.
I got a couple. Okay, so we've talked about eye control, about controlling a computer with just your eyes. Yeah. I had a client in a hospital situation where they were using an eye gaze setup. But of course, if you're using eye gaze, it means you probably don't have any function elsewhere. Like, you are physically unable to access other methods. But this person needed to be able to call for help, right? How do you call for help if you don't have a voice, or if you're in a loud hospital where even if you do have your little voice thing, nobody's going to hear it over all the beeping and the hustle and bustle of a busy hospital. So their family was very worried that something was going to happen and they wouldn't be able to call for help, or they'd be in pain and just sitting there for hours until someone just happened to check in on them. And so they wanted to be able to use the call bell. So, working with a Surface Pro and an eye gaze device, how do you do that? So we got a little USB relay. So it's just like, you found something on Amazon. It was just some relays that could be controlled. You could just toggle them on and off through a USB interface. And so we built a box around that. I went to the IT department, and they helped me write some software. And then I wired the relay to. So I mean, hospital call bell systems use these big 1/4 inch audio plugs. Like, if you're in any sort of band or anything, you've seen like tons of these big 1/4 inch jacks. But that's what they use for their call bell system. And so we wired one of those audio jacks to this relay just so it would make a connection and break it, just like hitting a button. And we plugged it right into their system. And then we just put a little icon on the corner of her screen. And so if she moved her eyes to it, hovered over there long enough, it would click the icon. And anytime you click the icon, it toggles the relay, sends a signal through the jack, and can actually signal the front desk where all the nurses are sitting that that you've activated your call bell and you need help. And so she can just do that with her eyes.
That is so great. Yeah. That is so great. Thanks for telling us.
It was a bit of a process, but that was cool to figure out.
That's a great question.
I have
Rhona,
to know.
do you have any more questions, Rhona?
Well, any kind of assistive devices for photography that you've ever helped anyone with?
Because you've worked on some at Sherbrooke, right?
I have worked on a few, and I noticed your man Frodo. I noticed that stand there because that's a photography stand.
I mean, there's definitely ways to access the camera without, like wirelessly, without needing access, and it would be a bit of a roundabout route. It depends what you want to do. If you want them to be able to adjust the camera and stuff like that, it's a little harder to do. That might take some clever thinking and a bit of time. But like there are lots of USB devices for controlling the shutter. It's just like a little, you can buy them off Amazon. They're little shutter buttons, maybe $15, and it hooks up to your phone or whatever via Bluetooth, and you hit the button so that you can take, like, you can set your camera over here and you can just hit the button and take a picture. But you wire that properly, or you get the right one that's accessible enough that someone in a wheelchair could use it, and you can have the camera set up there, and then they can just hit the button or whatever, so they could at least take pictures on their own. Also, with something like this, like a mount, you could have your phone sitting in here, attach it to your chair, and if you have the accessible device to control your phone while you're in your chair, you can have it set up so that it's pointing forward, and you can use your device to drive around and hit the button and take pictures as you turn around. Like, just off the top of my head, that's
Wow.
That's great. Thank you.
Andrew, I feel like someone could just spend a whole day with you and just learn so.
Yeah, every once in a while, I'm told to give presentations, and it's like, I mean, I'll give you the 30-minute rundown of this is what this does, this is what this does, this is what this does. Does anyone want to demo something real quick? Yeah. And you can do that in half an hour, but like, you get me talking, it's like, we haven't even talked about like voice dictation, accessing a computer with just your voice. We haven't talked about head control or like, it's just, there's so, like this, I haven't even mentioned the roller mouse yet. Like, it's very easy to go down rabbit holes in this field and discuss something very narrow for a long time.
Oh, I love it. Andrew, thank you. You're amazing, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. Thanks for your time today.
No problem, and thanks for bringing me on this. My pleasure.
My thanks to Andrew for inviting Rhona and I into his workspace and sharing his passion with us. If you want to learn more about Andrew and his work, or to get in touch with him, just visit the SaskAbilities website at saskabilities.ca and click the Independent Living tab. This has been Season 5, Episode 6 of YXC Underground. My name is Eric Anderson. I host, produce, and edit this local independent podcast. You can listen to YXC Underground wherever you find your favorite podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or the website yxcunderground.com. And feel free to leave a 5-star review if you like what you hear. Follow YXC Underground on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and that's where you'll see some wonderful photos of Andrew taken by my friend and Saskatoon photographer, and perhaps future podcast host, Rhona Andres. A few quick thank yous before I say goodbye. Thank you to Saskatoon's Danger Dynamite for managing the website, and a thank you to my cousin Andrew Dixon for the original theme music. Before I go, I would like to acknowledge that these interviews were done on Treaty 6 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis. My name is Eric Anderson. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon, Saskatoon.